All right. Well, welcome in to another episode of the T&T Podcast. As always, this is your boy Tyler Layfield, joined by my co-host Torres Finney. Torres, what's going on, man?
What's up, Tyler, man? Happy to be here, man. Yeah, once again, girls, let's get it going. Good weekend of football. So,
Yeah, it was, and we've been talking about football quite a bit, but as you and I know, and as many of you out there know, there was some action in the NBA going on. NBA, man, it starts
Mhm.
this month, and for those
Yep.
of y'all that have been following the show, Torres and I, we like to get into some NBA, and maybe eventually we get into some college basketball, closer more toward March Madness. But big news popping off. Damian Lillard has finally been traded. The vaunted prospect, the vaunted superstar that everybody has been wanting. He has finally been traded, and no, it was not to the Miami Heat. It was to the freaking Milwaukee Bucks. In this deal, you see, they ended up trading Damian Lillard. Ended up being a three-team deal. Portland received Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, Tumani Kamara, who for some of you guys out there that have kept up with college basketball, he played at Georgia for a little bit. Milwaukee's 2029 unprotected first, and an unprotected Milwaukee swap rights in 2028 and 2030. The Suns, who got into this deal, they got Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson. I believe it doesn't say it here, but I believe that that Portland also got a Warriors pick in there. I think it's next year's Warriors top four protected, so it's probably not going to be top four. For those of us that keep up, the Warriors are going to be pretty good, so I don't think they're going to be in the top four of the draft. But ended up being a pretty good deal. I mean, if we get into this for the Blazers, and we'll just kick this thing off, we'll talk about each side real quick. We're not going to go too long on this. We got a lot to go into, but I ended up liking the deal a lot, especially considering what else they were getting offered. Being able to bring in Ayton, who Torres's guy, right? Torres's
Mhm.
guy, DeAndre Ayton, who he
Hey,
defends for some reason. He defends him to the death.
I don't think he's that
Right.
bad.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
doesn't
think he's
think
that.
it's that bad. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see, and maybe a change of scenery will help him out. But getting him, getting the other guys in this deal, Drew Holiday, who we're gonna get into in a second. They were able to flip him here in a minute. Um, they got Tumani Kamara. Outside of that, on their team, they have some pretty good prospects. This past year, a couple guys ended up getting to the point where they were standing out amongst others. So, they got Scoot Henderson in this year's draft. Anthony Simons is somebody people really like. Shaden Sharp showed out a lot this year. Matisse Thybulle is a guy they were able to bring in, a good defensive, three-man. Jeremy Grant's there still, a good four. You got some pieces you can work around with here, and I really kind of like what they got here. But Torres, you're a guy that's been known to kind of talk about the Suns in some good light. What do you think about the Suns package in this deal, where they got Nurkic, they got Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson?
Well, I think it's pretty good for the Suns. Finally they got a little bit of a bench. We knew that was their lacking from last year. Now, granted, these aren't like, oh my gosh, great
No.
players, but it's some pieces that you can look at and be like, okay, we can plug and play. And I think the Suns can play a little bit with that. But sometimes I really don't think you actually need, any more superstars. You don't necessarily need. Oh man, we need that extra guy. I think looking at what the Suns already have anyway, I think it's good enough. And
Mhm.
adding a guy that you can probably plug and play with, like Grayson Allen, the what's this other name? There we go. Keon Johnson, Jusuf Nurkic. I mean, those are just solid players. They probably can utilize them throughout the season. Probably can try to trade them around a little bit during the season. But I think it helps the Suns a little bit.
Yeah, you still got KD, still got Devin Booker, still got Bradley Beal. Josh Okogie is a pretty solid three. Now you get
Mhm.
Yusuf Nurkic, who, yeah, when he's healthy, he can be okay. Even when he is healthy, and even when he's not healthy, obviously that's not good. But when he is healthy, he's okay. I do think that's a little downgrade from Aiton, and I wasn't even an Aiton guy to begin with. I think the upside of Aiton is a lot better. But the other guys, Grayson Allen, he could be a good bench piece, come off the bench. They already got Eric Gordon, like we've talked about in the past, Yuta Watanabe. The other guys, to me, don't really matter as much in this deal. Nasir Little and Keon Johnson aren't really moving the needle for me. But then on top of that, let's take a look at the Drew Holiday trade. They were able to flip Drew Holiday in return to the Boston Celtics, which I thought this was pretty interesting. The Celtics hopping in here, um,
No shot.
getting in on the deal, and this is the kind of deal. This is pushing the chips all in. We saw it on Torres's vlog. When you get dealt that hand, that nice hand, you push those chips in, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Trevor and the other guy did, right? But they had some asset stockpile. They ended up sending Robert Williams, who we've all seen, a guy that gets hurt, but when he's on the court, he's pretty freaking good. He makes a good defensive effort, hustle plays, things like that. Malcolm Brogdon, a good role player. He does his part. A 2024 first. That's where I got the 2024 first at. So never mind, not that deal, but they got it in this deal. They got a 2024 first from Golden State and a 2029 first that's unprotected from the Celtics in exchange for Drew Holiday. I love this deal for the Celtics. I think the Celtics might be the biggest winner coming out of this whole thing, either them or the Bucks, in my opinion. Looking at the Celtics now, what they can do, with their team. They got Derek White now. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. You still got Al Horford. They went and got Kristaps Porzingis. Now you got Drew Holiday. Man, this is looking good. This is looking really, really, really good. Peyton Pritchard now has some open minutes. You can't really point to a ton of stuff after that, but at that point, when you name the guys I just named, I mean, when you get to playoffs, those are the only guys that are going to matter. Those rotations tighten up. You're not going 10 deep anymore. You're going like 7, 8 deep tops, on the court, that are touching the court for you. So I love this deal a lot for Boston. This one, they came out really good. The other, winner, I guess you could say here, we just mentioned them, but the Bucks, them getting Damian Lillard, they now have him, Malik Beasley, Chris Middleton. Still got Pat Connaughton, Giannis, Brooke Lopez, Bobby Portis. I don't know, man. I'm feeling pretty good about them. I like the Celtics the most out of this deal, but to me, the Bucks they're a strong second here.
Well, looking at the Celtics, I mean, with a lot of the pieces that they already have, I mean, having to bring in a Kristaps Porzingis, who's already really good on offense, can give you some really good stuff on the defensive end as well, along with Drew Holiday. I think the Drew Holiday part is what really sunk it in for me for the Celtics.
Yeah.
Now I do believe that this is very big, this is huge for the Bucks. But after watching some shows today, listening in, I mean, a lot of people felt the Celtics, this is a really good deal for the Celtics. Obviously, the Celtics are now the favorites to come out of the East, especially after what they did last year. But some of their main concerns is okay, who's going to be able to guard the big guys? Guys like Joel Embiid, the guys like Giannis when it comes down to the paint, because some people don't think Kristaps Porzingis is that type of guy to be able to guard those guys, and obviously not a Giannis. But I do believe that a lot of the pieces, they can make this stuff work together and they can play good defense together collectively. I do think Damian Lillard going to Milwaukee is big. We all know he wanted to go to Miami. Obviously, they didn't use that, but after seeing what the Bucks have done from the beginning. This is a very huge piece. I mean, we saw what happened last year with Giannis going out, with them being a number 1 seed, and them not necessarily having another guy to fall onto. And I know they had Chris Middleton, but to have now Chris Middleton with Giannis, now you got Lillard and all those boys. I think it's gonna be good for Milwaukee, man. I think we're probably gonna see them be a top seed again, 1 through 3, 1, 2, or 3 seed, and just another really good team to look forward to in the playoffs. But yeah, this is gonna be really good. The East has just gotten better.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna say one more thing. But Damian Lillard, I enjoy this for him because I mean we're real. I know he wanted to try to sit with Portland and win a championship, not leaving. Obviously, this wasn't up to his decision anyway. He wanted to leave, but he didn't want to join no powerhouse like that. I knew from the beginning that this is what was going to happen. I already knew that he was eventually going to have to go somewhere else for him to win a championship. He didn't have a chance over there in the West anyway. Obviously, we're dealing with the Warriors and now the Nuggets and the Lakers and all those boys and the Memphis coming up, Suns. It just wasn't going to happen unless somebody big came to him. And I think this is huge for him. I think he has a really good shot at winning a championship now.
Yeah, I gotta agree. The one question that pops in my mind though is what's the gap between Drew Holiday and Damian Lillard though? Like Drew Holiday was one of those guys. I really like the way Drew plays. He has his games where he pops off offensively, but you can guarantee a good defensive game from him every single night. He's one of those guys. You're not going to get that with Damian Lillard. You will get the offense more, but at the end of the day, which one would be more valuable to a Buck squad? Considering what they had to give up. I mean, it wasn't a ton, like we said. They maybe had to dip into their depth a little bit with Grayson Allen, but I'm wondering if it was really worth it for the Bucks to even jump in on these sweepstakes. Like, what do you think?
I mean, with Coach Bud lately, if you look at the Bucks statistically, they've been one of the top five defensive teams in the league the past few years. The Bucks are always at the top on the defensive end, and it's never been a one-player thing that made them great defensively. It's always been a collective unit. Coach Bud had the Hawks playing really good defense when he was in Atlanta.
You're right.
Just who they are. So I think he'll be able to adjust with Damian Lillard. I know Damian Lillard is not no defensive prowess, but he is a guy that I feel like can fit into the system, and I think he can utilize that with the Bucks. You probably say, oh man, they're probably fell off a notch defensively, but it's still a really good team.
Yeah. And they were also able to bring in Cam Payne, former Phoenix Suns. He's going to be like, one of their 6 men coming off the bench to go back up for Dame. So that's pretty solid. All right, so let's dive into the college football world. There's no tiptoeing around this, man. You got to just face this head on, rip the Band-Aid off, UGA Auburn. Let's get into this for a second. Let's get real. Cue the sad music. Going into Jordan Hare, we knew that the one thing we were all saying, we can't. All right, we're going to Jordan Hare. We cannot start off like we did against South Carolina. Sure enough, what did we do? We end up going in there, go down 10 immediately. It was starting off just like we saw against South Carolina, different fashion, but same result. But it was just, man, a very frustrating game to watch from a fan's perspective. It's just, man, I'm losing confidence by the week in this squad. I still love my team, a lot, but man, my expectations are just slowly but surely starting to slim down from week to week. And it's starting to get sad, man. This defensively, you really see the missing pieces that we have. Some people want to go and blame, oh, this is what you get when you replace one of the best offensive coordinators you always have. Were y'all watching defense? Were we watching the defense here? What does that have to do with the price of grits? What does that have to do with freaking? I mean, I just want to get on my soapbox a little bit. To me, it's not even the offense. I mean, how are we going to sit here and blame Bobo, blame the offensive coordinator, what else, whatever, what have you? When that's not even the whole problem here. The problem was, bro, we couldn't stop the run to save our lives. I mean, you go and look at that graphic at the rushing yards for each team.
Pretty bad.
God Almighty. And then you go and look at it, it's from a white boy quarterback that decided to keep it on a little play. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just stuff that is so uncharacteristic of this team. And we're missing a lot of leadership. I feel like that's definitely taking a toll on this year. Missing the Jalen Carters, the Nolan Smiths, the Stetsons, the Darnell Washingtons. Like, it's guys like that. I think it's really taking a toll on us this year. And I'm not enjoying. We were able to pull out the win, and other guy you can't blame here. Some people want to say go and replace Beck. Beck sucks. Whatever. I thought he did pretty good, and when it came down to the very end, there, man, he was doing everything the right way, making the right plays. This was his first road SEC game. Very hostile environment. Jordan Hare is not a place that's going to be kind to you by any means, and I thought he stepped up and he embraced the moment. I'm proud of him. I like what I saw in Beck. I like what I've seen in Beck so far. He's on pace to be one of the there's like these offensive stats that are coming out. He's going to be the first one we've had to pass 4,000 pass yards in quite some time. And he's slinging it pretty well. He's missing some throws, yes, but I mean, if we can clean that up, we're looking pretty good. You can't blame him. We're gonna have to change the identity of this team. I don't think we could be this. I was talking about it today with Tanner and Jake Wilkins, Sam Spear, all them in our group chat. But we're got to change our identity. We can't be this defense that predicates ourselves on. We have to base it off the offense being able to establish a run. We're not a running team anymore. We're going to air that thing out. I think we have the pieces to air this thing out, change the script, flip the script. We're going to be a different team. We've seen Saban do this. He had to alter his teams from being that run-heavy team, defensive, ground and pound team, to switching over to passing attack. I think that's what we're going to have to do. That this team ain't what we've seen in the past. Pass this ball, sling it around a bit, get up on teams, and let our defense pin their ears back and go after the quarterback. You can't run the ball if you're down 21. You know what I'm saying? At some
Yeah.
point, you're going to have to switch up the tactics. We'll see if we end up doing something, but that's what I'm seeing from my perspective. I'll quiet down. Torres, take the mic, man.
You know, when I was young, one time in church, I had said it was at another church. It wasn't at my church. We had went to another church, and I said, "Man, it's so hot in here. I'm sweating. It's hot." And you know, this was after the church, and the preacher came. He was talking. We was all talking with my granddad. He had preached at the church, and the other preacher said, "Yeah, it is hot in here, but think about it like this. You know, you play football, don't you?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, think about it like this. You get accustomed to the heat. You get accustomed to the heat that's inside it. It doesn't mean that we don't need to get air conditioner fixed. Obviously, we need to get that fixed, but you get accustomed to the heat. So you have to look at what are we complaining about. That's the same thing I'm using about Georgia. It's hot. It's showing. It does not look good,
No.
but we're getting accustomed to it. All right.
Yeah.
So, and I think this is the part where us as fans, we're starting to like, oh my gosh, we should be blowing out Auburn by 30 and 40. Okay, yes, I know we won back-to-back national championship, but let's be real with ourselves. Have we looked that much better? Well, we have, but there was a lot of times last year where we didn't look that good either. Like, okay, come on. Obviously, we saw a lot of things like, man, if these guys come out and play up to their fullest potential, man, there's a lot of great things we could see. But there was a lot of people doubting last year. Okay, I literally saw a lot of Georgia fan doubting last year, especially with Stinson. But what I'm going to say is, so far this team has struggled. I listened to the after post game interview with Kirby Smart, and he said, props to Auburn, man. They ran a lot of the times when we didn't expect them to run, and that's props to them. Auburn had a really good game plan. Granted, we struggled in a lot of areas we shouldn't have. We did struggle on the run. Defensively, we got to get some things fixed. We got to get some things fixed defensively because, look, we haven't faced that high-power offense that can just put the points on us like that. But we have faced, solid offenses, I would say. Obviously South Carolina ain't no crazy offense, but they all right. We're going to see a little bit better one out of Kentucky, but I don't think Kentucky is an all type of like high-power offensive type team anyway. They're more of a defensive team in their own right. So we're going to see better football teams as we go on, but we got to get things fixed defensively. But once again, we're a collective unit defense. We don't have that individual type player like you were just naming out, guys that would just be like, oh my gosh, we have to have them. I feel like we're better as a collective unit. And I think a lot of the times Georgia just got to fix a lot of things in their own right. All right. Then on the offensive side of the ball, look, I know we got Beck back there, and I love Beck, but I actually feel like there are opportunities where we need to stick with the run. Sometimes I think we get pass heavy, but I don't like the plays that we call in the pass game. This probably sound like me blaming on Bobo. It probably does, but I don't like some of the play calling, man. And I don't like I don't like some of the play calling at the certain times. It just certain plays at certain times. That's my concern. Look at that fourth quarter drive down the field going. Now, look, I knew he just basically where Brock Bowers at. Let me throw it to him. Granted, it worked because the ball was wide open every time. But look, I felt like that was a really good drive, really good play calling, really good stuff down the field. But there was a lot of times throughout the game, man, where we shot our own selves in the foot. See, this is the thing. It's not so much of like Georgia is struggling because of the teams they're playing per se. It's more we're struggling because we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
I want people to look at like there was a lot of times where we'll get the ball driving, like we'll get moving down the field and then we'll do a stupid play. Like we'll get moving down the field
and then the wrong read.
And then make the wrong read. Yeah. Like, oh man, we just made it to the 50-yard line. Oh man, it's 3rd and 4. Well, boom, we make something stupid when we should be converting. Last year, what we do, we was converting in those type of plays. Those are those short plays where you look at and be like, okay, I'm going to convert here. Oh man, 3rd and 4 at the 50. Third and 6 at the 45, going into your opponent's territory. You have to convert those type of things because eventually those leads to points like field goals. And I just felt like we just made a lot of different mistakes. We took a lot of field goals. Second half, I mean,
I'm
looking
glad
at
he made the field goals today.
he did. He did. Besides the fumble, we fumbled once, and the one punt. We only punted once the second half. Like the second half, they came to play. Now I understand, time of possession plays a factor, but we only punted once the second half, and then you had to fumble. So our offense eventually gets better as the game goes on, but we cannot continue to have these slow starts. Georgia with these slow starts is so dissatisfying, man. And eventually, you slow start with the wrong team, they're gonna come back and bite you in the butt.
Yeah. You're right. I will say this: being at the UAB the other game, that first drive was immaculate. It was great, and that to me there was a lot of creativity and the passing game. That's just my idea. I think that we should get heavy in the passing game because I think it would switch up the script, and that's what this team needs to do. I just don't think we got the personnel to do what we've been able to do in the past. But yeah, man, I get what you're saying too. Auburn did throw a lot of stuff at us that we were not expecting, RPOs, and people are like, yeah, man, well, they have a really good running team. Well, I mean, yeah, their running back has been killing other teams. We got killed by the quarterback. We were getting killed by the quarterbacks, bro.
By the quarterback, yeah.
That's like, that's a little bit of a disrespectful thing. Like to me, like I think that is when Peyton Thorne's running on you. I'm saying I don't really care for that. So, all right, we got to get off UG Auburn. We got to move on. USC Colorado. All right, we watched some of this.
Really
I was able to catch some of this. It looked like USC was going to pull away quick. One of the best first halves you've seen offensively this season in college football. Caleb Williams was just freaking carrying Tyler Layfield's college fantasy team to a freaking win, man. It was going great. Second half, they let off the gas. Colorado was able to get back in that thing. What's the name of the wide receiver? You brought it up in the thing. Amarion
Miller, man.
Amarion Miller. He showed up, man.
Number 14. What a game. What a game.
Yeah.
Yes, man. That was an incredible game. And looking at what Colorado was able to do throughout the game, that was that second half. That you take away the first quarter for Colorado. Now, granted, you got to play the whole game, y'all. Take away that first quarter. Them boys, literally showed up. They outscored them from the second to fourth quarter. Now, obviously, you can't dictate the game by that, but Dion talked about a lot in his press conference. He said, man, it felt like those guys were not ready to play. He said second half when they came out, they were ready to play. Defensive plays were being made. They were doing better on their keys, doing the right things. Now, granted, we already know Colorado have a defensive problem. They got to get some bigger boys. They're just too small, man. They got to get some bigger boys. Obviously, we know Travis Hunter could play a dividends, but they wasn't going to win either one of these games with or without Travis Hunter, regardless. Now USC, on the other hand. All right, so USC is in the talks of being one of the potential playoff teams going into the going to be at the end of the year. USC is going to be one of those teams at the end of the year. They're going to be in the conversation. All right. Well, we're going to see about that because in 2 weeks, I don't know if USC beats Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, I don't know if USC got to play Utah after they play Notre Dame. 2 weeks later, they got to play Washington, but at least they're at home. And then they got to go on the road and play Oregon, which is another team I don't think they will beat. I don't think they beat Notre Dame, and I don't think they beat Oregon. That's me.
They're going to leave this with at least one loss. At least.
I 100% agree with you on that. And if they do go undefeated, they deserve to be in. No question about it. But I don't think they go undefeated, especially with that defense. My gosh.
Yeah. Important note, too, for that Utah game. Utah will, by that time, I would like to hope that they would have their quarterback back and possibly that tight end that's really good for them. So Utah might be a totally different team by the time we get to that time. So that will be kind of tough on them. Yeah, USC is the same old. Good offense, no defense. That's a recipe for you could make the playoff, but even if you do, you're not going to win it. All right. So speaking of no defense, LSU Ole Miss. What a shootout! But what, over 700 yards for Ole Miss on offense, over 600 for LSU on offense. It was just a shootout to say the least. LSU, man, RIP. You were donezo. Everybody, the media's darling before the season, the darling of myself and Jackson Caldell. It's over, bro. Your chances of college football playoff, it is donezo. You lose 2 games, you're pretty much done, especially when 2 regular season games already. It's one thing to lose in a conference championship and then have one in the regular season, but It's done. What went wrong? The defense. Defense to me, and then just execution. Later on in these games, they just were not able to do what they had to do to win a game when it came late in the game. I'm sure there's a lot of people happy out there that LSU has fallen, but yeah, it's done for them. You can go ahead and write this one up. Ole Miss, they still just have one loss. They could push for. I mean, right now, Bama has a little edge on them because that Bama beat them, but they could still push to come out of the West. So we'll see how it goes. Anything you want to add to this one?
They can make a push, but it's gonna be hard. I mean, they still got to play. They still got to play Texas A&M. They still got to play Georgia on the road.
That's right.
Those are gonna be some tough games. But all in all, right now it looks like Alabama's gonna be the leading team coming out of the West. Regardless, we'll see what happens with this Texas A&M game going into next week. But overall, LSU, man, was a little disappointing. LSU defense, actually, LSU is known to have defense more than offense. Most of the time, it's LSU can't score, but they got a really good defense. This year, they can score on anybody, but they can't stop nobody. And it's crazy because they have the pieces. And, at first, at the beginning of the year, I was a little like, man, like LSU with who? At that quarterback, Jaden Daniels. I was like, Jaden Daniels. I didn't, but a lot of people talking about Heisman potential. I was like, man, I didn't remember him playing all that. He was good. I remember him being that type of caliber player from last year. But boy, did he prove me wrong when I watched that game. But defensively, they had nothing. And I mean nothing. They had nothing defensively. It was a huge problem. I see a lot of the good things, the bad things that happened. And I just think it's just going to hurt them overall. I really do believe it's just going to hurt them overall.
Yeah. All right, so let's see here. Let's go ahead and get into Week 6 predictions. All right, Week 6 predictions. We got, we're going to be highlighting. We're just going to look at 4 games here, at least to start off. If we want to add any more to it, we'll add some here in a minute. Jacob chimed in on Facebook. He said, Mario Miller is a different animal. I don't think I've ever seen a wide receiver do what he did in their first ever game. Very, very good point. I mean, first ever game, this dude, nobody had heard of his name before. Dude just came out of the woodwork, and decided he was going to have a day, and under the brightest lights, going against a top team in the nation, he showed up. And without, I didn't get to go into it, but Colorado did prove a lot to me in that moment. Like being able to, they could have very easily just said, you know what, this is another Oregon. We're just going to go down. They showed a lot of fight. I got to respect it, man. Week by week. Just like I'm losing confidence in Georgia, I'm gaining some confidence in Colorado. They're moving in the right direction as a program. And it's,
they are.
I feel like that said a lot, but got to say it again. All right. First prediction, Kentucky, UGA. All right. So we're looking at this, this matchup here. This one, Kentucky coming off of a big win against Florida. By big, I mean big. They were able to run the ball at will against Florida whenever and whenever they wanted to. Florida at one point even had 13 people on the field on a goal line stand and still couldn't stop the running back.
They still couldn't stop the run.
He had a blast of a game. This is going to be 7 p.m. in Athens. UGA favored once again, second straight week by 14.5. And you know what? I'm not freaking taking it because I just don't. I can't do it. I cannot do it. It's just all trust is gone with this team.
I've been taking the under the last few weeks with Georgia. I don't know why I don't even know why you keep taking the over. I keep taking.
I don't know.
Under.
Maybe I'm just caught in this past, recency bias of this is the same team I watched from years past. It's not. Y'all can. Catch
I know they're good, but I know, man. We ain't gonna be able to. We can't. We're not that type of. We never been that team. Even if when we did have offense, we wasn't that type of team that was gonna drop 50 on you regardless. Anyway, we were gonna drop 30. All right. We had 35 to 7, 35-14. We'll take it. Kirby will take that game all day. He'll take a 35. He'll take a 28 to 10 type game. We saw it with Tennessee. We could have scored so many more points on Tennessee last year. But hey, who cares? Run the clock out. Run 7, 8, 9 minutes. He didn't care.
Win the game. Win the ball game. I don't know. I'm losing trust in him. Losing hope. I just, this, I was going to mention this, a quick little comparison for you. The same way I told y'all last year, that if you're going to beat Bama, this just might be the year. This could be the year to beat them. If you're going to beat Georgia, this really just might be the year to do it. I mean, I think, I don't have the confidence in them anymore. I hate to be that guy. My wife gets on to me about it. It is what it is.
You can't jump off that, Tyler. You can't. Come on, man.
I can't. I mean, I'm not saying we're an awful team, but man, I just cannot. Like, I can't guarantee anything anymore. Like, I could guarantee you stuff last year. I felt like for the most part. Besides, there was some point spreads, like you said. Kent State, well, that was obviously a screw up. Mizzou was a screw up. Kentucky was a screw up last year.
Stanford was even a screw up.
But it feels like, yeah, Stanford too. But this just feels like it's every week now. Every week is a screw up. Like every freaking week, we're not having that dominant fashion. So to think that we're going to cover 14.5 points, I'm not going to take it. I'll take us to win this ball game. Being that it's the running back doing it. Kentucky, if they want to get cute with it, they can honestly, pull out some stuff like we just saw with Hugh Freeze that, they haven't been showing in weeks past, and maybe they can pull some quick ones on us. I'll say that we're going to be motivated. There was a quote that came out from Kirby. He said, "Bloody Tuesday." They were like, "How are you going to prepare for Kentucky?" He said, "Bloody Tuesday. It's going to be bloody." So, I mean, best believe, like Kirby's got all the motivation in the world right now to get this team right, and they're either going to buy in or they ain't. I'm going to choose to believe that they're going to buy in. That's just the culture we have, and that they'll make the necessary changes to where we can win this game. I'm not going to take the 14.5 point, although I wouldn't be shocked if they somehow ended up doing it. I just don't have that trust level anymore, like I said, but I will take Georgia to win this, but not to cover 14.5.
Now, this is where we're going to switch. I'm taking the over this time.
Okay, you're going to take
it. And you're probably going to say, I've taken the under on these boys the last few weeks. I have.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think they would. Because they haven't had to jump up to play anybody. This is the first time I feel like Georgia's going to be rocking. Now, I know a lot of people don't give respect to Kentucky like they should, but this is an undefeated team with a solid defense. They're coming in here thinking they can take over the SEC East. Kirby's going to have these boys ready to play, and I do believe these guys will be up to play Kentucky because they're the first-ranked team they're going to play this year, because they're the first undefeated team they're playing this year. So I do believe Georgia. I'm quote me on this. We're going to see the best Georgia. We're going to see if this is the best team we got so far this year. I think this is going to be the best performance, Georgia. We're going to see what this team could actually do at their fullest potential. I think this will be the game. I really do. Because we are playing up to our potential. There's a lot of times last year. Remember the names you just called out. You called out Kent State. You called out Sanford. You called out Mizzou. What's Conway? Look, respect to those teams,
Kentucky
but we already and last year, that's right, we beat them 16-6. We
yes.
Like, man, who are these guys? And you shouldn't go into games like that. You should have that mindset. But I think that's the beauty of what Nick Saban does. Nick Saban don't go into games, undercutting these teams. Most of the time we see with Alabama, especially in their prime years, when they were going against a sorry team, guess what they did? They handled business 59-3. It wasn't close. But sometimes with some of Kirby's teams, some of these guys that come in, man, we got this. Look what we playing. They come in with that mentality.
Yeah, they do.
But anytime, and we've seen it for the last anytime, that when it's time to play a top-tier team, when it's time to play like that dog, because Kentucky is some dogs. Kentucky's they're a good football team. Kirby have them boys ready to play, and those guys come out to play. I think a lot of people, we're going to see if Georgia is deserving to be the number one ranked team after this weekend. We're going to see. We're going to see if they're ready, because I think they come to play for Kentucky. At home, a ranked team, undefeated, trying to take your spot. Come on, man. How could you not play for that? That's the game I'm going to show out in. As a football player, that's the game I would show out in. So I'm taking the over, and I'm taking the over. I
hope you're correct. You're on record. You had more confidence in this than me. I'll defer to it. I hope you are right, my man. I hope you were right.
And I've been on record to say that I've been picking them the under the last few weeks.
Yeah.
I didn't have confidence playing these other sorry teams. They don't play them good. I knew we were going to have a little struggle with Auburn. I didn't think we were going to beat them by that much. I was surprised that game was that close in the fourth quarter, but I didn't think we were going to beat Auburn by that much.
All right. Oklahoma, Texas, the Red River rivalry. Both of them coming in, ranked. You got number 12 Oklahoma and number 3 Texas, both undefeated. Texas is a 6.5 point favorite this year in this matchup. Texas has been the team. I've gone on record. I picked them to make the college football playoff. Oklahoma, they've been a better team, at least defensively. Offensively, they've been able to put up some points. But defensively, they look like a Brent Venables team. They're starting to look like a team that, he coaches. They're coming off wins against Arkansas State, SMU. They were to beat by 17. They beat Tulsa, Cincinnati, Iowa State. So no crazy big matchups here. This will be their first big opponent of the year, but we all know that this stuff, this is their games they get up for. This is their big matchup every year. So God only knows what you could see from a team like Oklahoma in this matchup. As far as Texas goes, we've seen them tested already. Obviously, they beat Alabama
on the road.
On the road, beat Kansas mighty handily, I will say. Like, they pulled away late, but it was.
Granted, Kansas didn't have a starting quarterback, so.
They didn't. You're correct. He still didn't look bad, though. The one they had out there, he was doing pretty good. He was slinging that thing. He was. But ended up pulling away later in the game. I like this Texas team. I really do. And I know I've been saying it over. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball. They got a good defense. I like what they've got. It's hard for me not to pick them. I'm going to go with them here. Ewers is having his Heisman running moment. I'm taking Texas here. I'll take them to cover the 7 points.
All right. So this is what I'm going to do here because, you look at both of these teams. All right. Granted, I feel like the winner of this game goes on for the Big 12 and will represent in the Big 12 championship. Okay. So because of that, I do believe that currently we got some tough teams. I mean, we've seen what Texas has done so far, and they've beaten Alabama on the road. They beat Kansas at home. Now Oklahoma, this is their first really true test. And I think because Texas have already went through that, I think that we give the slight advantage to Texas. I'm going to take Texas, and I'm going to take them going with the over. I think we see Texas actually utilize and show themselves against a really top-tier defense. And another thing, whoever wins this game ain't got nothing else after. Unless they meet each other again in the Big 12 championship. But I'm looking at Oklahoma. They got UCF. Kansas on the road. That could be tough depending on the quarterback gets back. That could be a tough game. But then they got Oklahoma State, who ain't done nothing. West Virginia, that beat them. BYU, that beat them, at TCU. Then for Texas after that, they got Houston on the road, BYU at home, Kansas State at home.
Kansas State could pose a threat. They could pose a threat.
Okay. I mean, we did see it. Yeah, they could. That was
a close game against Missouri. They barely lost it, bro.
They did. They lost on a 60-some yard field goal. I mean, you're not lying on that. You're not.
The rest, I agree with you. The Kansas State, that's the one I'll kind of defer on. I'll go a little different on. I do kind of Kansas State. That's one of those teams that people are saying look out for. So that's one that can catch up to get them. But I get what you're saying, man. So yeah, whoever wins this one, you're setting yourself up pretty good for a chance at the college football playoff. I think it'll be Texas covering the 6.5 points. What'd you say?
Same, Texas cover.
All right. So that'll take us to some Tiger v. Tiger crime. All right. We got number 23, LSU, going against number 21, MIZ. ZOU. They're coming, playing at Missouri. For those of y'all that have been tuning in, you know that Tyler Layfield, he went on record. He was talking some pretty good stuff, and I don't want to take full credit. Like I said, I gotta give it up to Craig, man. Craig taught me into these boys, and they've been living up to the hype. They actually look pretty good. They're a solid team. I'm not saying they're world beaters by any stretch of the means. They are a solid squad. Already pulling off the wins they have. LSU is on the ropes. I mean, shoot, you could arguably say that they're already down for the count. Now that I'm wondering what's going through their players' minds. Are they thinking this is already over? We don't have a chance at this. Or do you think that they still think they can play their way into it? Because if it's the prior, if it's the former, Mizzou can absolutely take advantage of this opportunity, especially at home. Get up on this team. They could put up some points. Missouri can, but they can also play some defense. Missouri or LSU is a 6.5 point favorite. I'm going with it. I'm going with them Missouri Tigers. That's how I'm going. I'll take them plus the points. I like that bet. There's a lot of confidence coming from that crowd, at Mizzou. And, Luther Burden, Brady Cook, that defense, it's hard to really say that, without a shadow of a doubt, they're losing this game. I think they can. And I think now that there's 2 losses on LSU's record, you could see a team that's defeated already in the mind. I'll take them. I'll take Missouri at home, man. Easily. Go.
I mean, look at this. I mean, look. You're talking about a team that just came from a tough environment out of Ole Miss, going back to another tough environment. Not only this team is tough, but they're undefeated and they know what their chances are. Missouri got Kentucky, South Carolina, then Georgia. We already know if they get past LSU and if they find a way to go on the road to beat Kentucky, that's going to be a hard. That's going to be it's in their sights, and they're going to be like, "We got a shot.
Scary.
We got a shot."
Scary.
And it'll be, oh man, we got to take this team seriously. And I think this is the game where Missouri is like, you're going to take us seriously. Now, granted, this is going to be a hard game because this is my concern. Can they stop LSU offensively? Can they stop LSU on offense?
I think they can do enough.
But then we'll see if Missouri can score with them boys. Because Missouri ain't been that type of top-tier offense like that. They even struggle to score MTSU.
They can't put them up, though, especially with a funnel like we saw from LSU. Like, it was just – there was no semblance of defense from LSU defensively.
It wasn't. But I thought it was good play call. I thought it was good game plan from Ole Miss, from what's the name? The head coach. I thought it was
I don't know, man.
Ole Miss have been scoring like that on everybody else besides Alabama. Who else? Ole Miss scored 73 the first game, 37 the next one, 48. They scored 24. Now they scored 20. They scored 10 against Alabama. Then they scored 55. Ole Miss was scoring a lot of points on everybody, and LSU has not been shut down by anybody besides the first game of the season where they had a blunder against Florida State. So it's hard to sit here and say that they're going to be able to go ahead and stop them. But I'm going out on a limb. This is more of a heart pick rather than a head pick. I'm going to go with Missouri. I'm a root for Missouri. I hope Missouri wins.
All right.
Missouri can get this one.
All right. So that'll leave us to our final match here that we're going to break down here, and it's right on time. Alabama traveling to College Station. All right, that's going to be a number 11 Alabama, and it has the same record as unranked Texas A&M, 4-1. Both teams 4-1. Alabama is a 2.5-point favorite here on the road. You already know where I'm going with this. I predicted it before the season. I'm not going to go out like this. I'm going to go with A&M here, even with the quarterback being out. Jimbo's fighting for his life. I think this A&M defense can pose a threat defensively, to Alabama's offense. I think they can stop the run. We've seen we saw. Hey, they destroyed Auburn, like as far as like on the line of scrimmage. They got the guys to do it. Like they got the talent to do this. They are going to be at home. That crowd's going to be up. I'll take them plus the points, man. I really will. I'll take them plus the points because I know Jalen Milroe is good for a couple mistakes already. A&M's just got to draw up enough plays offensively, which I know it's just something about this matchup. They end up pulling out everything they can and everything they can do, and it ends up they get these plays, man, that go their way, and I think it's going to happen. I'll take A&M here to cover the spread and to win the game.
I'm going to go with Texas A&M as well. I went with Texas A&M last week. I went with Texas A&M at the beginning of the season, and I'm sticking with them. I know a lot of people talk about, Texas A&M quarterback, but since they put in Max Johnson, I've been keeping my eyes watching a little bit of Texas A&M. He's been playing pretty good. And I was a little worried about that Arkansas game, because most of the time they have to play Arkansas right before they have to play Alabama. And Arkansas usually give them a tough game, man. They give them a tough game. And A&M just walked through them boys. A&M really did not struggle much with Arkansas majority. It was a tight game here and there. You can give them that little late touchdown KJ Jefferson got in the fourth quarter. But single-handedly, Texas A&M dominated that game. And I'm going to be honest with you. I really do think A&M beats these boys, and they're going to have a really good shot. Now, they still got a hard schedule. They got Tennessee on the road, then they got Ole Miss on the road, and they got LSU on the road. That's a hard schedule, boy. But I do think at home against Alabama, they can get the job done.
Okay. A couple of comments that came in. I see on Facebook, Jackson said LSU is dead to me. I've already mentioned it, Jackson. You and I are darling. They are done. RIP to them. They're dead to me as well. They're dead to everybody. We had a couple comment on the YouTube live. Kenny says Cam Ward is the best QB in the nation and is the Heisman frontrunner. Let's go Washington State. I don't know about the Heisman frontrunner part, but Washington State has been pretty good. And Washington State winning the national championship, he said. All right, real quick, just for Kenny.
They're not even the best team in Washington. Get out of here.
So real quick, just for Kenny, if he's still out there watching, number 13 Washington State at 4-0 goes to take on UCLA, who is 3-1. UCLA's favored by 3.5. Who you got here?
I got Washington. I got Washington State. They'll beat UCLA. Oh, they got UCLA as the favorite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll take Wazoo with the points.
I'm taking Washington State. I'll take Washington State.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it today. I know Torres, he's got his fight coming up. There will be a show coming out next Monday. If you guys want to tune in, we'll be breaking down every detail to this fight that Torres has next Tuesday, October 10th, 8 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Buy the package. It's $9.99. All right. Buy the package. Tune in. Support our boy Torres. All right. We'll go through every detail, every aspect of this fight, what you're getting with Yuri, what you're getting with Torres, what we're looking at, as far as predictions. I give mine. Torres doesn't give a prediction. He never does, he says, but he gives us a little insight that we can go off of. But yeah, tune into that. Be sure, like I said, to support Torres in that area. Thank you guys once again for listening in. We do appreciate all the support. If you want to continue to support us, continue, tuning in when we go on these live streams. We're on Facebook, YouTube Live, X now. And then if you're listening on podcast, continue to listen to it on there. If you're out there, just tuning in now, later on when we, put this up, go on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are located. You can click in the description, go on the link tree. There's many different ways that you can support us. But as always, we thank you for tuning in. And as always, we'll see you next time.
Boom, boom.